President Biden is considering using his executive authority to cancel some student loan debt. The president has said any plan would likely forgive at least $10,000 for each borrower, with an income cap that targets those graduates who have the greatest need. But South Bay Congressman Khanna is pushing President Biden to go even further and cancel all student loan debt for working and middle-class Americans. In a Washington Post op-ed, Congressman Khanna said it's the right thing to do and also makes economic sense. For more on this issue, we're joined now by Congressman Khanna. Always good to see you. Thank you for making the time for us. You're calling for bold action from President Biden. Why do you believe the president should use his executive authority to cancel all student loan debt for those in need?
I hear from so many folks in the Bay Area. They're saddled with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of debt right when they're starting life in their 20s and 30s. This prevents them from starting a family or having a house. It's just wrong. You know, I paid off my student loans over $100,000. I don't want other young people to have to go through that. We can cancel this for working class and middle class families.
All right. So how would you determine who would qualify for debt forgiveness? And do you think there should be any sort of income cap in place?
There should. Elizabeth Warren has a good plan. 95% of borrowers would qualify, and it would go up to $50,000. This would mean that if you're, making a few $100,000, you don't qualify. But if you're in the working class, if you're in the middle class, you qualify, and you don't have this extraordinary burden that you can never pay off. We can figure out the exact amount, but what I urge the president to do is to forgive the debt for most of the working and middle-class families. And by the way, the relief would largely go to those who are the lowest wealth Americans in the working and middle class.
All right. You wrote in the Washington Post op-ed that this makes economic sense. It's obvious from a financial standpoint how it benefits those borrowers who are underneath, in many cases, just crushing student loan debt. How does this help the economy more broadly?
Well, it means that people actually can buy houses. It means that they can start families. It means that they can start a business. It means that they can get the job that they really love instead of being worried about what's going to pay off their debt. And it makes them more entrepreneurial. So I just don't know any other place that requires people to go into $30,000, $40,000 of debt. By the way, here's the important thing. This was never in our country's own history for 100 years. Since 1862, the Morrill Act, we basically had free college, especially in California, up through the 1960s. So we're just asking to return to something this country did for most of our history.
Obviously, once you get into those discussions about forgiving student loan debt, you have to consider the cost and the implications for the country as a whole. Obviously, those discussions are yet to come here. But when you talk about the cost, how do you provide that much student debt relief to all of those qualifying borrowers without adding a lot of money to the national debt?
Well, the total student loan debt is about $1.6 trillion. But like I said, you can get to 95% of the student loan borrowers at about $700 billion. So as it is, you cut off $1 trillion just by focusing on the 95%. And there you have a tax on the billionaires that the president has proposed. You have a tax on Wall Street speculation. You'll have enough money to cover both the forgiveness of all the student loan debt and to make a vocational education public college free in this country if you just did those two things.
Finally, here as we wrap up, obviously we've seen the president take incremental steps, if you will, toward forgiving some student loan debt here. How do you expect that this push by you and some of your colleagues is going to be received by the president?
I'm encouraged by it. I think the president's torn. My sense is he wants to do it. He's got some advisors around him saying don't do it. But I think ultimately he's going to hear people like myself, Hispanic caucus, progressive caucus, Senator Warren, Senator Sanders, young people across the country. And he's going to realize this is the right thing to do. It's giving young people a chance at the American dream. I think the president believes in that. And this is something that he has the power to do. He doesn't need 51 senators to do it.
All right, we will wait and see what path he chooses to take on this issue. Always appreciate your time. South Bay Congressman Khanna, good to see you.
Thank you. Always great being on.
All right, take care.